and welcome to the Chopra Center and our webinar today. I love the theme. I'm so excited to connect with all of you as Libby and I are going to get a chance to talk to you today about reconnecting, re-inspire, and recommitting to your practice. But before we do any of that, I want to reintroduce to most of you who already know her, Libby Carsensen, who is our Director of Sales and Vedic Mistress, I call her, and just, and also just one of the most inspiring yoga teachers I've ever had in my path of yoga, along with just the coolest, hippest, funnest, coolest person to hang out with on a Wednesday afternoon. So welcome, Libby.
Thank you, Gordon. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's an honor to be here with all of you. Thank you wherever you're joining us from across the globe. We're so excited to be here with you today and really connect, even though it may be just you watching from the comforts of your own home. I want you just to imagine now just thousands of us from all over the world coming together to share this time.
And what's beautiful about sharing it is that the reminder is our goal is to reconnect. And the number one thing that people always share with us when we're on an event is how they want to come back to the Chopra family and how they wanted to reconnect. And that's what inspired you to create this webinar, which I love, is the fact that it's an opportunity for us to come back and say, where do we need to reconnect? Where do we need to be re-inspired? And what does it look like? And I know, because the foundation of what we do at the Chopra Center is meditation, it's the number one area we find that people want to recommit, reconnect, and really figure out what that looks like. So you and I were joking because I always remember my first experience at Seduction of Spirit. You leave there so inspired. I was like thinking, okay, I'm going to meditate twice a day, 30 minutes a day. I'm going to do everything David G told me, which of course was the basics, which as we remember is RPM, which was rise, P, meditate. And then he reminded us to teach us RA, which is right after work. Now, I would be lying to say I maintained it at the level that I felt I was committed to at the end of my Seduction of Spirits experience. So, I realized that if I'm not doing it, I'm probably not alone in this journey. And I often find people come up and say to me, what I got out of this workshop, again, was recommitting to my practice. So, as much as we want to have you join us at an event, we also want to find a way that we can support you in recommitting to your meditation practice today. And that's where we want to start this conversation right now, Libby.
Yeah. And I think, Gordon, what you mentioned, too, is that, when you come to a Chopra Center workshop or experience or even a teacher training, we come with the grandest of intentions of, really committing to this and making it in a practice. But what we realize is that when we get back home, life happens. So we created this experience for you today we know that life is going to happen, but we know that when we are stepping into these practices really of expanding consciousness, that we can now choose to respond to life and really meet it where we are instead of moving into this reactive mode. So I think a great place for us to start today is by meditating together. Does that sound good to you?
I always like to meditate, especially with you.
Beautiful.
And I'm going to actually start, before you do the meditation, with a quote that David Simon gave us that I think is really powerful. Meditation is not the goal. The goal is transcendence. But the technologies of meditation, such as mantras and affirmations, remind us that we can go beyond emotional turbulence and stress into quieter levels of awareness, where our sense of individuality becomes less predominant and we experience our connection to the deeper, infinite aspects of life. And so we are going to have that moment now as Libby leads us in a meditation, again, just to get grounded and to remind us how easy this practice is. All we have to do is get still and silent. Let's get still and silent. Let's sit comfortably wherever you are, and Libby will guide us for just a couple minutes in this process of our meditation.
Beautiful. Thank you, Gordon. So wherever you are, go ahead and get comfortable. So if that means taking a moment to close the door or turn your phone on silent or ask your partner or the children or the pets to give you just a few minutes so you can really reconnect to your essential nature. So let's start by closing our eyes. And with your eyes closed, sitting easily in a seated position, let's begin to connect with the breath. We can look at our breath really as a symbol or a reflection of what's going on within the mind. So notice here if your breath is long and deep, or shorter inhale and exhale. And just consciously begin to deepen the breath as you inhale and exhale. And you can visualize here waves on the ocean, back and forth. And then you may notice a wave crashing every now and then, just like the thoughts coming into the mind. And you can simply notice that thought and come back to the breath. Begin to notice as you bring your attention to the breath, your whole physiology changes. With just a few minutes of meditation a day, you can experience better sleep, ease in digestion, a greater sense of well-being. And now moving your attention from the breath to our soul questions, the questions we ask ourselves before meditation. Getting in touch with our soul's desire. Who am I? Who am I? Now is the perfect time to start this dialogue with the universe. Who am I? What do I want? What do I really, really want? What is my soul's desire? Not what society wants for me, or my family, or my friends, but what do I really want? What is my dharma or purpose in life? How can I help? How can I heal? Using my unique gifts and talents. What is my dharma? What am I grateful for? What makes my heart sing? What am I grateful for? Taking a deep inhale, drawing in these questions any answers you may have received. And now exhale, releasing these questions and answers out into the universe, allowing the cosmos to work through the details. Now begin the repetition of your primordial sound mantra. You can also use the So-Hum mantra. As you inhale, think so, and as you exhale, hum. Remember, the repetition is gentle and effortless. There's no need to force or concentrate. Repeat it innocently, effortlessly. And if you find from time to time your attention drifts away to a thought in the mind, a noise in the environment, or a sensation within the body, simply bring your awareness back to the mantra. I'll watch the time. And when you hear the sound of my voice again, just continue sitting silently with your eyes closed. Enjoy. Om Brahmasmi. I am the universe. Release your primordial sound mantra. Continue sitting silently with your eyes closed, allowing the stillness and the silence of the meditation to settle in. Begin to bring your awareness back into this space. And drawing your awareness to your physical body. Gradually begin to deepen your breath, drawing the prana, life force, into the body. Now begin to wiggle your fingers and your toes, experiencing the amazing movement within the body. Taking a deep breath in, open mouth, exhale. One more breath in, open mouth, exhale. Final breath. Bringing hands to heart center. Drawing fingertips to forehead. Bowing to your highest self in gratitude for all of your teachers, the teachers before us, and the teachers we have yet to meet. And when you're ready, coming back to center, allowing your eyes to float open as if for the very first time, and greeting those you've shared this amazing experience of meditation with. Namaste. Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste. And even if you are home alone or in your office, just silently wishing all those both seen and unseen around you as we shared this experience of meditation together. And I like to say, Gordon, that the way that we move from the meditation pillow or the yoga mat sets the trajectory for the rest of the day. So by all means, if you want to move in a scurried fashion for the rest of the day, then bolt up. But the more that we can mindfully move from one moment to the next, you start to experience that flow. You know, it's moving with awareness instead of struggling or resisting what is. Does that make sense?
It does, and it always reminds us when we're told not to run to and from yoga or meditation. What I love about it is, like Libby just said, if we really want to honor the gift of our meditation, we need to honor both how we enter it and how we leave it. And the thing that I encourage people to pay attention to is, where is your phone, where is your iPad at the time you're meditating? They shouldn't be near you, and you shouldn't look to them to be your source in or out unless you're playing or using them for purposes of part of a guided meditation. So let's just go to meditation, because we have this beautiful practice, and I know people say to us all the time, why can't I have that all the time? And the answer is?
The answer is you can.
It's true.
Here's one of the things I think that's really interesting that you just shared is, where is your technology? We talk a lot, and you hear this and you read this everywhere, that information is the new addiction. Connectivity, you think of how many different ways, like the way that we're connecting with you right now, through this webinar. And the idea So when we think of communication, that's more of that vata energy, the qualities of air and space, movement. So it's just natural for us in our environment today to start to accumulate that vata. And what happens when you start to accumulate vata?
You're where Gordon is today, which is a little vata deranged.
Now, I want to give you an upgrade. I hear that a lot where people will say, I'm vata deranged. And what I want to share with you is instead of, because that to me sounds a little disempowering, that life is happening to you, although it may feel that way.
Some days it does.
But when we instead think that we're starting to accumulate vata, so we're starting to accumulate those qualities of vata in a space where they become imbalanced, we start to experience what?
My mind's always racing. I find myself unable to stay focused. I think for right now, I feel like...
Are you a multitasker?
I am a multitasker, but when I would teach people, I always remind us that we can't do anything well if we do it too many things. But it's just whether I'm doing it energetically, I feel like I'm multitasking. So whether I'm physically doing it, I'm just energetically ungrounded is the best way to describe it.
I want to give you an idea, and also to Jane Wilkins. Hello, Jane. Thank you for joining us, who has a question, how to stay committed to the practice. And I want to encourage you just for today, because sometimes I think too, when we think of practice, we think for the rest of our life. And if you have any of that pitta dosha, that becomes more of a challenge. It's like, yes, I'm going to do this, where the vatas will get overwhelmed and the kaphas are like, I'll get to that when I can. So if we can shift from multitasking to something that I like to call single tasking, which is really moving with mindfulness, where each time we're doing something, we're solely bringing our awareness and our focus to that one thing. So for meditation, where we all have maybe 100 emails that we need to answer, those emails are going to be there when you come out of meditation.
They are.
But just for this moment, if we can be present, and one of the easiest ways to help pacify vata is routine. So you travel a lot. I know you do. I mean, is there anything that you do that helps you to stay in routine so you feel more grounded?
And I think it's a good point, because definitely for me, I commit to basically when I wake up. But I always commit to meditating in the morning, no matter what's happening in my life. That is the consistent part of me. Where I find I trip up is my afternoon meditation.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I find, and I'm hearing all the time is, and so I know I'm experiencing some of that, sort of lost moments. But yesterday was a great example. I've just recommitted on Monday to 21 days of doing an afternoon meditation again. And I committed to 21 days because we all know within the context of what Stephen Covey teaches us is that it takes 21 days to form a habit. And so if we can commit to 21 days of anything, we can start to find the rhythm and we can start to experience the benefit. So for me, I recommitted to an afternoon time of mindfulness. And so yesterday I got to an appointment a half hour before, and I sat in my car and I meditated. And it was really beautiful. And as you said, how did I come out of it was really important for me to remember, because I didn't rush out of it. I didn't rush to my appointment. I really entered my appointment and the rest of my evening with such grace and ease. And it just shifted everything as a result of that commitment.
And what you're just sharing reminds me of this joke that I heard a few months ago, where there's a master teacher who takes on a new student, and the master teacher is teaching the student, the way of meditation, the way of, really experiencing that peace no matter what is happening. So the student goes to the master teacher and is learning all these different meditation techniques, pranayama, they're practicing yoga. Student takes what he learns, he goes back, starts to put these things into practice, and what he finds is a lot of stuff comes up. So relationships are worse than ever, is having really a hard time, trouble sleeping. It's, food, he's drawn into all these different, behaviors and practices. Goes back to the master teacher and says, what gives? Like, I'm doing everything, I'm practicing meditation, I'm doing the yoga, but still all this stuff is rising up. I mean, I thought if I started doing this, that suddenly life would be easy. Master teacher says, don't worry, this too shall pass. So student goes back and was a little bit angry and perturbed, right? And decides that, okay, I've invested all of this time, resources into learning. I'm going to just continue practicing. So student continues practicing and then finds that over time, suddenly sleeping better, able to focus, relationships more joyful than ever, feeling really connected to purpose. So with all that enthusiasm, goes back to teacher and says, you were right. Like, it's finally happening. I'm experiencing this opening. I'm joy and bliss, all the things that I've read and heard about. Teacher turns to him and says, don't worry, this too shall pass. So that's a good reminder of it's riding like the ebb and flow, and which is also one of the reasons that we were inspired to really have this opportunity to come together, because Najima from Georgetown University says that, how can I sustain the balanced feeling for more than 2 hours? Still feeling blocked, even though, feels that, is doing all the right things. So what would you say when, you're feeling really connected, but then something happens? Like, what's a new way of experiencing that?
Well, part of it, as you were saying in the sort of in your story, is to remember this too shall pass. Mm-hmm. And so when I find myself getting really caught off and being brought into the awareness that I'm not in the calmness.
How do you know when you're when you've
For
come
me,
out of balance?
as a good pitta, when I get angry, like when something flares up,
yeah,
when something sets me off that has no relevance or importance but sets me off. Mm-hmm. I find myself, when I'm driving, I watch myself driving all the time in terms of where my reaction is. And what I love is, this month in our newsletter, I love the fact that Adam writes an article about ways in which we can practice yoga driving. And what he reminds us
Wait a minute. I'm experiencing people doing chair yoga while driving. Is
that
what he means?
It's not quite chair yoga.
Okay.
But what he talks about is the consciousness, the way I frame what this drive is about, my awareness of my environment, practicing pranayama, doing all of these things. So what I remember and what I was reminded by in the article was, what can I be doing when I feel that flare up, when I get angry at the driver in front of me? So those are the moments, like with Najma, where we can see ourselves getting out of sync. But remember, life is happening. Mm-hmm. And we don't live in an ashram in the sense of we can't live in that constant peace. That said, constant peace is something that we can continue to strive for. Just a quick reminder for everyone, on your screen, underneath your monitor on your computer, you can write us questions. It's easy. We love questions. It helps us connect with you. And one of the questions that we just had was from Judy, who just writes, how does meditation balance and improve my spiritual life? And what do I need to do to balance my body as a result? And really, as David Simon always reminded us, was just meditate. When you ask Deepak questions, number one answer is?
Meditate.
And he really,
meditate.
And at first, we all sort of say, wait a minute, there's other things I can be doing. But the reality, going back to your question, is this. Mm-hmm. Without the practice of meditation, it just doesn't all work.
And the idea too with meditation, and I love taking in different techniques of meditation and things like that, and I've been trying on a waking meditation recently, because I think one of the struggles for many new meditators is we suddenly become aware of how many thoughts we have. And how many of those thoughts are the same thoughts we thought yesterday, the year before, 10 years before, decades before. And so those repetitive thoughts, it's like being caught in that wheel. And what is the definition of insanity?
Doing it over and over again and expecting a different outcome.
That's right. So how can we shift from kind of that habitual way of thinking? And to answer Judy's question is, how can meditation improve your life? Is that now when I start to have these thoughts, and they start for me right away as soon as I wake up in the morning, it's like I hit play on this recording that I've been playing for years. So now just in kind of, instead of, being at war with my mind, I want to look at my mind as my companion. So when I start to have those thoughts, I just suddenly say, thinking. There's thinking again. There goes that thinking. And then even in meditation, when we have the thoughts arise, instead of pushing them away, I just notice and then go back to the mantra. So how does that experience in meditation translate off the meditation pillow? Is that when life starts to come at you, instead of you seeing it as being, a war or a battle, you can see that life is bringing you opportunities to rise to a new state of awareness. And that's one of the things that you and I are really excited about, Spiritual Solutions, the workshop that's coming up in December, which teaches you a brand new way to approach challenges in life. So you want to talk a little bit about that, because I know that both you and I specifically have been working on when challenges arise, we look to another opportunity to expand.
And I think that's the thing to remember, is that at the end of the day, everything's a gift. And I find myself, when I can turn everything into the gift and the gratitude. This is what I love about our fourth soul question, is that when I really can ask myself, what am I grateful for? And in any moment that I'm given in my day, I'm like, what am I grateful for? One of my favorite things I'm grateful for is when I get to a stoplight and it's red. And I think, okay, what am I supposed to be grateful for right now? And I think it's here because it gives me an opportunity to stop my life and to get realigned. Because I realize that I'm supposed to arrive at a time that's already set up for me, not the time I thought I was supposed to arrive. And so what I always have to remember is, wait a minute, this is being done as a gift for me, not to me. And so it's shifting just that consciousness that helps all of this work. And one of the things, going back to your point about when we get into the issues around our doshas, it's the awareness of where we're out of balance. And that's what we just went through with Journey to Healing last week, was everyone, after we begin to talk about doshas, has 1,000 questions for us and wants to understand how to balance their doshas. And the reminder that I always say is, where in your routine, where in your exchanges with other people, are you finding yourself not in alignment with how you want to present yourself?
Your best self.
Your best self.
That's right.
And it's everything from how do you handle something in a grocery store, to your kids, to your spouse. Like, in what way are you reacting versus responding? And when we're not in the responding phase and we're reacting, that's when we know balance needs to be found.
Right.
Because when we respond, that's when balance is showing up.
You know what? I want to show you right now, just speaking of, we're moving into, particularly here in the West, depending on what part of the world you're watching us from, summertime. So a lot more heat. And we know that if you are of the Pitta dosha, which both Gordon and I are,
Surprise.
and all of us have, a certain amount of that heat, that there's a great breath, a great pranayama that you can use that can actually help to cool the body and cool the mind. And it's called Sitali breath. So you want to practice that right here?
I do. Okay.
So this is a breath that Gordon was mentioning. I think traffic for everybody can be, I've seen entire lifetimes played out in a 20-minute drive sometimes, being in a passenger seat with somebody having, let's say, some enthusiasm while driving. And I think that's a good opportunity to practice for life as well. So this is a great breath if you find yourself in gridlock traffic. So you'll start by curling the tongue. And some of you may not be able to curl the tongue, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with you. You can actually, if you curl the tongue, so curl the tongue just like that, just like Gordon is. That's perfect. So curling the tongue, and then you're just going to inhale and outhale. So inhale and exhale, and just imagine like you're sucking through a straw and then blowing through a straw. And as you're inhaling and exhaling through that straw, you'll notice, can you feel the cooling breath? So you can imagine too, as you're drawing in that cooling breath, that's also cooling the mind.
What an amazing breath. And for Those of you
minty fresh.
It is minty fresh. I know that Marianne just asked about how to help, her question was how to allow herself to get into her meditation where it doesn't take at least 10 minutes once you get started to start to feel the effect of the calmness of it. An example is pranayama.
What we just did. So again, just as we started the meditation today where we did some breathing and just noticing our breath, like if breath is particularly shallow, I'm guessing there's probably something going on with the mind as well. So I find that for me, what helps is just a little bit of pranayama, so connecting with the breath, even doing some movements. So I love to do the Sufi circles or the Sufi grinds just to help me get connected with the body. And then since we're also talking about meditation, I love Kimberly has a question where she was asking when we have those soul questions, when we ask, who am I? What do I want? What is my dharma? And what am I grateful for? How do we know that it's the soul, instead of the ego kind of showing up? So I know what I have that works for me, but I'm curious what works for you.
Part of it's how you get into meditation. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things, going back to your point, which is to really allow yourself to sit. And then, one of the ways that we do that for me is simply in the breathing process, I simply invite the questions to be answered by my soul and not my spirit, or not my ego. So I simply go into, these questions are for my soul, and I allow the answers to be revealed. And then I also just say, when I come out of them, like we do in our practice, it is taking a deep breath and releasing them back to the universe for the universe to give us the answer. Yeah. Because part of what happens is, then I would spend the whole meditation analyzing the answers, a good pitta. But I've learned to really release that, because I say to myself, my practice now involves breathing in and saying, now breathe in and release the questions for the universe, and I allow the answers to be revealed when and however they're to be revealed. It's the practice of asking them that I really honor. And I look at it again, like you said, it's just a practice. And when I can get in just the practice, it shifts everything.
And you know what? I love that. And one of the things, too, that I found that for me, many times the answers don't come to me when I'm in meditation, but when I'm out of meditation by way of what I like to call messengers. So there are people, places, and experience that give me clues into who I really am, what I really want, and what is my dharma. So be open to how this information comes into you. In fact, very rarely for me does it come by way of meditation, but when I'm out in the waking world where we have those experiences of insight. So I think the more that we can let go of the attachment to how things are going to happen, we can allow for things to emerge as they really should be.
And Jen Ryan writes a really good question. And so going back to her, she asks how to balance and how to create the experience with a 30-minute meditation where she can really be present for it. And this goes back to what we talked about and shared a lot, is the insight timer. Because I think one of the issues that I find people come up with is how to measure their meditation. And if you commit, like many of your questions have been asking, is if you start your meditation with something like the insight timer is an example, but what we're doing with the insight timer is you start it, it then creates the chime, it then creates the ritual of the beginning, and then it's in charge of the time of your meditation. Because I think what happens is people get intimidated thinking, I've got other places to be, I've got other things to do, what am I going to do? I'm responsible for measuring the time of my meditation. And those are the things that trip us up. And so I really encourage you, until you're at the practice where you can begin and end without timing yourself, the value of being timed and letting the time be managed by an external experience will help a lot of the questions that have been asked of us today. Because part of what happens is we get caught up in trying to judge, evaluate, or wonder what this meditation is here to do, share, or reveal.
Well, I think, too, in answering to Jen's question, so her kind of question is, too, I've been practicing with primordial sound, but having that desire to go deeper. So I would say if you haven't yet experienced seduction of spirit, that is a great place to go next. In fact, anyone who's learned primordial sound, which is the technique that we teach at the Chopra Center, it's a mantra-based technique. That next step is the sutra meditation practice, and that's taught only at Seduction of Spirit by Deepak. So you're literally receiving the sutra technique taught by Deepak to student, and he may also say this too shall pass. But it's a beautiful technique where you're learning the sutra technique, these intentions or these sutras, which correspond to each of the 7 chakras or energy centers. So it's a beautiful experience where you're learning from the root or the base of the spine all the way to the crown. And I find that for me, when I practice the sutra practice, that life just becomes more colorful. So I think if you're ready to go to that next evolution in meditation, that's a beautiful way to do it.
And I'll say this about the sutra meditation. It's what shifted my meditation. Mm-hmm. I do it every day. It's part of my commitment in my meditation. And the reason that I just, again, champion this is if you have come to Seduction of Spirit and you haven't gone back to your sutra meditation, that's another way to reconnect, re-inspire, and recommit. Is to recommit to your sutra practice. Now, we've talked a lot about that at the events where we say it's considered a 28-minute practice. Mm-hmm. There are ways to reduce it to a smaller time frame. Mm-hmm. And I invite you to consider just adding it either as part of your weekend experience or your daily experience, but really recommitting to your sutras if you have the sutras as a result of coming to Seduction of Spirit. But it is a great reminder, Libby, because it transformed my life. Mm-hmm. It really shifted, and like the question that we were asked, it is what brought my practice into the next level. Mm-hmm. And that was really a real deep commitment. I also want to make sure that we go back to yoga a little bit, because I think it's really important, because meditation's easy for us to jump into because we can do it anywhere. But how can we reconnect to yoga? Do you have some suggestions around that?
I do. So I think, the intention for this coming together of the webinar is really to give you some practical tools, like at least leaving here today with 3 things that you can do right away and put into practice. So we've talked about meditation. We've even talked about a cooling breath that you can use to cool the mind. And then we also have talking about yoga in just a moment, but we also have the global meditation experience, which is also an opportunity to reconnect as well. And that's coming up. It's August 8th
at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, where we're going to be meditating with people around the world. Gabrielle Bernstein and the beautiful Indy Ari will be joining Deepak in Toronto with us. And we're going to be spending an hour having a live experience with the world. And it's easy to sign up for, and we really encourage you, because we're also committed to the Guinness Book of World Record opportunity for us to break the record of the most people meditating at the same time for one cause. And so that cause is going to allow us to be the largest meditation event that's ever taken place, recorded as a live experience from a web-based experience that we're going to be sharing with everyone around the world. So that's an example of everyone coming together in the unified, both the commitment to peace, but also the unification and the value and recommitting to the value of meditation.
Powerful things happen when groups come together. And this is something that, again, it's just an amazing experience to also share with your friends and family who maybe have not experienced the Chopra Center before. You can sign up and participate at globalmeditation.com. You can also join us live. There's still spaces available for Seduction of Spirit in Toronto. I'm very excited about Deepak joining us. David G. will be there as well. Gordon will be there.
Libby will be there.
Claire Diab will be there.
Daniel Mika Nagel will be there.
Gabrielle Forleo will be there.
Amanda will be there.
Did we say Deepak will be there?
And also we have, Gabrielle Bernstein. And again, part of what I love about it is, we just realized what a powerful experience coming together is. Mm-hmm. And so we also just want to remind you that that's what we get to do. Mm-hmm. And so the address to actually connect is globalmeditation.chopra.com.
That's right.
Just visit the chopra.com website, and it will guide you to how to register, and you'll watch the live experience online with us. from Toronto, wherever you are in the world.
Yeah.
Some other things that we want to remind you about is that the meditation experience is coming up too, and registration has opened up for that. The first, that we'll be starting that on the 11th of August, and it's very exciting. The theme is expanding your happiness. And so again, through that process, we can go to chopra.com. You can register for either both of these beautiful live experiences that are free and keep you connected. And we also just want to come back to the fact that in all of our practices, it's just a practice.
It is.
And when you want to recommit to it, and I really go back to this, what can you leave today committing to? And so if you have been meditating every day, once a day, and that feels good.
Can I tell you something about once a day?
I know where you're going. That's where I was going to go, but go there.
So David Simon, Chopra Center co-founder, there's one thing that I remember in my first experience, 30 days of meditating, I had a lot of stuff that came up as a result. You know, it's no secret that I've really struggled with anxiety and depression for most of my life. So all of that started to come up and out as an opportunity to transform. And I was speaking with David Simon about this, and he said, you've just got to stay committed to the practice. It's like, this too shall pass. And he said, how often are you meditating? And I said, man, I've got that first time 30 minutes every day on lock. And he said, what about the second meditation? I said, I can't find the time. And he said, you know what? He's like, once a day is like treading water. You're just doing what you can do to keep your head above water and get by. He said, but twice a day, it's like swimming the English Channel. He's like, so you can decide if you want to be doing this or if you want to be doing this.
And that's where I want to help other people go today. And that's what we created this experience was to remind you, how can you build that second practice if you haven't yet? And if you have, awesome. But the reminder that, like David Simon said, do you want to tread or do you want to swim? And so it's for the reminder that what can you do to build in and where can you find that second practice? Whether it's the morning or the evening where you're struggling or you want to recommit, find ways that you feel you can do. And going back to your point, which is, what does that commitment look like? Is it a 15-minute? Is it a 30-minute? But what he always reminds us is a second time to meditate is always going to benefit you. It's going to help your evening better. It's going to help your sleep better. And what do you need to do to get back on the bike to the commitment?
Yeah.
And so that's what we also want to remind you as an opportunity within this experience. I also want to share with you one of the things I always like is both our DVDs of the practice and of Perfect Health are great examples of our yoga experiences that Libby and Amanda guide you through different practices. Gabrielle guides you through practices. It's a reminder that sometimes to get back on the mat, what is it going to take and what is it going to look like? And that's why chair yoga is a great example. As you said, with your Sufi, swirls.
Sufi circle swirls.
Sufi swirls.
Yeah.
But remember to go the other direction too. But the key is just what does it take to get back in your body? Because when you go back to dosha balancing, it's getting back and recommitting to your body.
Yeah, and the thing too, just as we start to bring this experience to a close, is remembering that, Deepak teaches that transformation simply begins through awareness. So for those of you who maybe have not been feeling so great about, moving your body once a day, meditating, being mindful in your communication with your partner, your friends, your family, you are just one moment away from actually making that shift. And even having the awareness that you want to change is cultivating the opportunities for that transformation. And we also know that when you come to a Chopra Center workshop or experience, and when you're immersed in this environment, really learning and practicing, powerful things take place. So we also want to provide an opportunity for you to come back and re-engage with the Chopra Center. We are offering for you that have participated in this webinar, $200 off any Chopra Center 2014 workshop. So that means Perfect Health, Seduction of Spirit, which we have the August date, and then November, who are our special guests again?
Marion Williamson and Martha Beck.
And Martha Beck, we're doing a webinar with her as
Totally. Next week. So I'll remind you that at the end, but Martha and I are going to be having a webinar next week so that we can reconnect about her wisdom, because we're going to be talking about abundance, which is the theme of our November Seduction of Spirit.
Creating abundance. So seduction of spirit. We also have spiritual solutions, which is our workshop. I'm not kidding you when I say I actually carry this book with me. I had to get a bigger purse, therefore I can carry this book with me at all times.
You and I are the biggest groupies, but Libby and I get to work together at this event because it excites us, because it is really, the answers to life's greatest challenges, but we really focus on relationship, personal growth, our health and well-being, and our success. And what's exciting is that that we're doing, we have Lynn Twist, who this is the first time Lynn's going to be joining us. She wrote Soul of Money, and she's going to be sharing her wisdom, not just about the success of making money, but what is the core of where we need to find our peace with ourselves and transform that relationship to ourselves. That's going to make a difference. We also have James Van Prague, who's going to be joining us, who's just a spirit that's going to just invigorate all of us. We have the beautiful Sarah McLean and her husband Marty going to be joining us about relationships. Deepak's really going to dive deep in the way that he's going to help us really look at both our success, our relationship to our wellness, and how to connect those so that we can get a commitment for the best person we are.
What I love about this book is, Deepak says that the secret is that the level of the problem, and speaking about spiritual solutions, like when obstacles or challenges come our way, says the secret is that the level of the problem is never the level of the solution. By rising to the level of the solution in your own awareness, you can transform obstacles into opportunities. And this, really the teachings in this book and what we bring into the workshop, I've seen amazing breakthroughs for people by way of relationships, and just people who have been wanting to have a partner, or people who want to transform their current relationship, friends, family, people in terms of success and really getting plugged into what their purpose is in life. Just some really big breakthroughs, which really come from changing that way of thinking. So it's rising to that, next level of awareness. I'm very excited about that.
We could keep talking about all of our programs, but we also want to remind you that this is just a conversation that you can be having with your program consultant.
Oh, yes.
And so reach out to your program consultant and share with them that you are interested in exploring a possible next step to come hang out with us this year. And we really want to remind you that we have an amazing opportunity here in California to come join us for some of our programs that we'll be doing. And again, as Libby said, in addition to that, we also have Healing the Heart in October, Seduction of Spirit in November. We have Spiritual Solutions in December. Yeah. And then we have a whole 2015 season that we're looking forward to revealing and sharing with you and letting you learn more about our programs. It just starts with a phone call. Feel free to, at any point, call your program consultant. Let them know that you joined our webinar and you want to take advantage of your $200 discount that allows you to apply to any of our programs. And as we remember and remind us, Perfect Health is our magical program that happens on a regular basis here at the Chopra Center, where you receive 6 beautiful Ayurvedic massages. You recommit, you reconnect, and everything that brought you to this webinar is possible through that commitment of perfect health. These are all ways in which you can stay connected. We also just want to remind you that in addition to our programs, 21-day meditation challenge, our global meditation opportunity, connecting to us is really easy. It's free, and it's also available through our programs. So we don't want you to feel left out. There's always a way to stay committed, connected, and really stay with us always. Talk to your program consultant. The main number is 888-736-6895. It'll get you to the switchboard. That'll connect you to your program consultant.
We have a switchboard?
We do. That sounds like an old, out-of-dated experience. You can also connect us on Chopra.com anytime. Remember that this is an opportunity to stay committed, connected, and to recommit. Whatever you choose, if those 3 steps are anything close to connecting to you, yourself, and your spirit, then we've done our job, which is to connect you to all of us. We thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Libby, for being a part of this experience. We just say go out and make today awesome. Connect to your awesomeness. because from that comes all possibilities. Thanks for connecting, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.